Hello everyone. Welcome back to our competitive analysis and strategy class. For this session, we will discuss about tactics. So, first of all, I would like to analyze with you what is a tactic? Have you heard about this concept in the past? And of course, what is the relationship that tactics have with other elements that we have seen so far? Just a quick reminder, objective and strategy, and of course now, tactics are interrelated. Everything is related somehow. It's important that you recall that the first thing that we saw was actually the objective that explained what do we want to achieve. The strategy helps us to achieve that objective. And of course, if we divide, okay, if we do a segmentation of all the strategy, we're gonna find tiny little tactics, okay? It's kind of like if we analyze the cell of the human, okay? So let's start by providing a short approach of what is a tactic, okay? As I mentioned, okay, tactics could be defined as the combination of each step in order to fulfill and accomplish a strategy. Remember that if you define correctly your objective, your strategies must be aligned, okay? And of course, you should already make the analysis for that. Kind of like going to the origin of the word, we can see that tactics comes from Greece, okay? And particularly involves the art of ordering or arranging, okay? Now, once we have that approach, you need to remember that tactics are the steps in order to fulfill the strategy that we just defined. Most of the time, we're gonna have quite challenges by defining or having a specific approach of what is a strategy and what is a tactic. Sometimes they get confused or they are used as synonyms, which of course, in this session, we will see more deeply. So, as we can see here, in strategy, for the examples, could be changing the brand perception, diversifying revenues, and of course, verticalizing the content. As you can see here, on the right side, it's like specifically how do you want to approach to that strategy, okay? If you want to change the perception, maybe you want using a billboard or maybe using an app or doing a post, okay, to be like quite concrete. Another thing, when you want to diversify revenues, well, maybe a good option could be launching a new product, no? That's also interesting. And of course, if we want to do a vertical content, well, maybe building a landing page could be also approachable. So at here, as we can see, is that tactics, okay, are a short term to do, and of course, they lead the strategy, okay? We have to know that tactics shouldn't be complex and easy to execute. And of course, both concepts, if we try to get into a common ground, are used, okay, or were used in a military action. That's why most of business concepts relates with military and war aspects, okay? And last but not least, for tactics, it's important to be well defined, okay? And of course, to know the order of your tactics, okay? Here, the order of tactics might change the perspective and the outcome. So please be careful because it's not the first time that because tactics are so little, we tend to do everything at once. And maybe one tactic needs to be done after the other, or maybe simultaneously. Okay, so evaluate that before you move forward. Here we can see example of tactics, but apply specifically to marketing. As we can see here, if you want to attract, okay, employees, maybe you will have to get into several stages, kind of like doing segmentation, using multi-channel marketing, doing the metrics that could help us to evaluate performance, and of course, utilize the performance marketing also to do the proper analytics once we have the numbers. So as we can see here, everything is interrelated, okay? Tactics by itself won't lead us to a good result. But if they are linked together and coherent, it's quite obvious that we're going to get the result that we want. A very useful insight that could help us is actually the Gantt diagram. I would highly suggest you to start working with this method and this type of visual formats that help us to have a better understanding of all the tasks and activities that you must do in a very specific detail. Here, we're putting order, where we're mentioning simultaneously aspect, but of course, if there's something that has to be done in order to continue. It's important that if there's any change that we should do, we need to update the Gantt chart so we don't have any problem. And of course, it's going to be easier for us to do the proper adjustments. If we see that one activity is taking more time than expected, then we might have to arrange, eliminate a tactic, or even to evaluate if we need to eliminate something. Here we can see that tactics need to be supervised constantly. As you know, tactics work in a daily basis. So many things could be executed, and of course could implicate the execution. Be careful, because not the first time that a tactic might go wrong if we do not, keep an eye on it. And of course, there are multiple barriers. Sometimes even if you plan, things might work in a different way. And of course, maybe a tactic is going pretty well, but evaluate if that tactic had to have that specific outcome, or if it is something external that is causing that. And of course, you need to have a control method. A tactic, the good side is that because it's short, it's easier to evaluate. But be careful, because when we have the complete combination, then we might challenge ourselves of how to get into this. Here are some important factors that we have to recall. The first thing is that we have to allow our people, train our people to execute correctly, the tactics. One of the main areas that you want to execute tactics that people they aren't aware of. They don't know how to use it, or maybe they are too expensive to be used. Another thing is that, as I mentioned in the previous class, run pilot tests. Pilot tests can help us to evaluate in a short approach the outcome of something. Could be from a strategy or a tactic in this case. And of course, present the relationship between them and check if you can merge tactics, Even though the tactics are smaller, maybe two things can work together in order to get the result that we want. And of course, the potential problems that we have mentioned so far. And last but not least, contingency plans. It's important that your contingency plan has a plan B. What will I do in case a tactic isn't working as it's supposed to? Be careful about that. Well, I hope you liked the video. And of course, if there's any question or doubts, I'll be more than happy to help. Remember to contact me via Brightspace or using your email. Thank you very much and have an excellent day. Bye-bye.